in the dying embers of human existence, as the asteroid, a behemoth the size of Texas, hurtles relentlessly toward Earth. The world braces for an apocalyptic end. Deep beneath the bunker, a refuge plunges into the bowels of the earth. Here the chosen gather, their purpose clear, to preserve the very soul of our civilization. The 35 and 70 millimeter prints that encapsulate the magic, the emotion, and the dreams of generations past. These masterpieces, each frame a testament to the human spirit, are carefully cataloged and cradled in the cavernous confines of the bunker. Perhaps there was room for more, for friends and family yearning for salvation, but sacrifices must be made. The movie nerds stand united, the keepers of a flame, promising a future where the art of storytelling endures, transcending the boundaries of time and space. God help us all.
Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Western Media Podcast Network. Join us as we watch and discuss films on VOD and streaming platforms, deliberating on whether each one is worthy of salvation or destined for destruction in the face of the impending asteroid apocalypse. You can find more episodes of our podcast on backtotheframerate.com, where you can subscribe and share our shows and find us on our socials at Back to the Frame Rate. I'm Nathan Shore, and accompanying me are the extraordinary movie mavens, Brianna Butterworth and Sam Cole. How are you guys tonight?
Hello.
What was that, Sam?
I am here from the hills of fire. No, I don't know. Yeah.
I think you can do like Lothar from the Hill People or something.
Lothar.
Remember Lothar, Mike Myers character from Saturday Night Live?
Oh my God.
Yes. It's also similar to the name of an orc in the game Warcraft 2.
Yes. I can't wait to talk about this movie tonight. I don't have a question. I dropped the ball completely.
I actually have a question for you guys.
Oh, God.
Okay.
The tables
so it's
on
a
us.
bit of a non sequitur, but have you ever gone to Walmart and you buy stuff in the tech section and there's no one manning the desk in the tech section, yet that's a location where they can you can make the purchase there so you don't have to wait in the line, and so you're hopeful, but it's never manned. Is this just me, or is this a universal Walmart experience?
Universal. And it's really disappointing because one of my favorite things to get at Walmart is a bargain Blu-ray or a bargain DVD, and they often have those big buckets that I can sift through, just up to my elbows, and old Adam Sandler movies. I love that.
Are you dependent on the Walmart employee that works in that tech section to unlock something for you? Because you can just take it go somewhere else.
No, not to unlock it, but you can cash out there. They have a desk there, and so it's so convenient to do that. But when I buy one thing and you go to the main line and there's 1,200 people buying everything for the next 3 weeks, you're like, man, I wish that desk was manned.
What's preventing people from doing the opposite? You want to buy your slippers and your Cheetos going to the tech section. Can you do that?
That's true. That's a good point. I don't know. You could, I guess, but it'd be kind of I don't think anyone has thought to do that because it's it's out of their way. And if they're getting food, they're closer to the main aisles anyway, in the usual Walmart map layout.
Imagine
it's paying for your gum at the pharmacy. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think I've done that.
Have you done that?
Well,
sometimes those pharmacy lines
when I do
long.
pick up a prescription, I do load up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That is the time.
These subjects would be perfect for that Saturday Night Live skit, What Up With That? My favorite.
Keenan's an institution.
Amazing.
Well, this has nothing to do with our what we watched this week.
Yeah, that was a non sequitur.
Yeah, you're not going to find a movie like this in the bargain bin at Walmart.
No, absolutely not. But what we watched this week was Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This was the first time I watched it, and I think I can't wait to talk about this with everyone. But I have a trailer that's not in English. We watched a foreign movie, guys. I think this is the first one. Non-English language movie?
Yeah.
Could this be the first one on our podcast? I'm trying to recall.
Since I joined, I think maybe, hang on, I have the episode.
It's possible, and to me it was really enlightening because up until last week, I did not know that there was anything beyond the ocean. I thought it was just cliffs. I didn't know there were other countries. Like I just thought it was USA, Walmart, and ocean.
I was 100% sure you were going to say, up until this week, I didn't know how to speak French. And then
No, I still do not know how to speak French, unfortunately.
Me neither.
I'm not proud of this fact, but Spanish a little bit. Spanish I could get somewhere like in a vehicle, probably.
I can get by a little bit on Spanish. I lived in Los Angeles for 3 years, and I picked up a lot, and I picked up a little bit, Anyways, let me play the trailer for this, and take away from it what you can.
Je suis peintre. L'homme intéressé par ma fille est milanais. Nous partons là-bas si le portrait lui plaît. Il a épuisé déjà un peintre avant vous.
Que s'est-il passé? Je ne sais pas. Et vous attend.
Ça fait des années que je rêve de faire ça. Mourir. Courir.
So, tells you everything you need to know about this movie. It makes me think when I go to like a lot of art house theaters, and so many times there's the American edit where you don't have any English spoken, but it's just like these glances and the music is swelling, and that it's a foreign language movie because nobody speaks in it.
Yeah.
And I think I probably saw a trailer for this 5 years ago. I'm like, this is not in English because no one's saying anything.
And it's not a dialogue heavy movie to start with in any language, but the dialogue that's there, I find cutting.
Yeah.
And resourceful.
So I'll just read a quick plot synopsis here, and then we'll get to some movie facts. So France, 1770. Marianne, a painter, is commissioned to do a wedding portrait of somebody. Tell me if I say this wrong. Héloïse?
Yeah.
Héloïse?
I think Héloïse. Yeah.
I don't know if her name is ever said in this movie. I don't
sure
know. I couldn't. I was waiting for somebody to say her name in the movie. Anyways, Héloïse, a young woman who has just left the convent. Héloïse is a reluctant bride-to-be, and Marianne must paint her without her knowing. She observes her by day to paint her secretly.
Hot.
Yeah. All right. So, Sam, I know you dreaded this moment. Whip out all that French dialect that you've been practicing.
I think in order not to offend the world, I will read the movie facts as normal and as well respected as possible. I
want you to do it as the most ignorant American.
Could you read this from inside a Walmart? Actually, could you?
Oh gosh, that's a hard character to portray because there's so many versions of it in this country. But I will begin by saying that Portrait of a Lady on Fire is a 2019 French historical romantic drama film, and it's written and directed by Céline Sciamma, with two amazing, unbelievably realistic performances from Noémie Merlant and Adèle Haenel. And their acting is incredible. Let's see, this movie also was released May 2019 to Cannes Film Festival. Its budget was $4.86 million, and its box office was $10 million, so it did solidly well. And I would really like to point out the cinematography by Claire Mathon, which I just thought was amazing in this movie. Like,
gorgeous.
Looked her up, and obviously because I can't speak French, there were some films of like French films and foreign films I hadn't heard of, but her cinematography was so good I was like half wondering if it was like Roger Deakins or like I expected to find some random big name. That's the level of quality of like the visuals in this movie, I thought.
Yeah.
It was edited by Julien Lacharet, and this also the film won the Queer Palm at Cannes, becoming the first film directed by a woman to win the award. Sciamma also won the award for Best Screenplay at Cannes, and the film was theatrically released in France on 18th of September 2019. And there are some more data. I don't know if you guys want to have any thoughts or there's tidbits.
And
here,
it was released, I think, in the United States on December 6th of 2019, and it charted at number 39.
Wow.
It's one
clearly
of
it caught the attention of Americans.
And it came in right after a great documentary called Fantastic Fungi. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I have not seen it.
Amazing documentary.
It is fantastic.
Yeah, wasn't much else that debuted that week in December, but number one at the box office was Frozen 2.
It was a great year for movies. 2019 was great. And for foreign films, Parasite, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
I don't have any other real facts about this because that's it. All right. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. So yeah, in a nutshell, it was genuinely well received.
Yeah. I did look at all the awards. This thing, there's a laundry list of festivals that this thing was submitted to and was nominated and won. It's more than I could go through, but it was very impressive. Very, very well regarded film.
It's also worth noting, I think until Petite Maman, which came out after Portrait, I think Adele Haenel was in every one or most of Celine Sciamma's films. Not that she has an extensive filmography. There's a number of shorts in there, but that's how they met.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Well, I drew the short straw. So I guess I'm going first.
I've been dying to know what you think of it. I'm glad you're going first.
Okay. So, all right. So the first thing, let me move my mic a little closer because I think it's far away from me. So a little peek, behind the curtain to our listeners. We have this group thread, which I'm sure doesn't surprise anybody. But I messaged everyone in our between the three of our hosts, and I specifically was targeting you, B, because I think you're the lone member of our team that has seen this film before.
Yeah.
And I asked, is this basically 2 hours of edging?
Yeah.
Because that's what this movie felt like to me. And it's not a negative thing. Just, this is such an incredibly intense, charged romance that it's really depicted beautifully. Nothing about the actual romance we see is graphically explicit. I did not find, the nudity titillating or gratuitous. The eroticism lives in the glances and the observations that Marianne and Héloïse share with each other. This movie is about the power of gazing and observing.
Yeah.
And you can cut the sexual tension between these two with a knife. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, no, I'm glad you brought this up because this movie really spurred a big conversation about the female versus the male gaze in cinema.
Yeah. I think this movie is a masterpiece. And I'm underlying think because my takeaway is that I really can't find a single flaw with this film.
I'm totally
I'm sure that everyone here is going to say the same thing. Every frame of this movie looks like a painting. Sam, you complimented the cinematography. I think it's even more than that. There is a famous Dutch painter, Johannes Vermeer.
Yeah. And
I think there are so many frames in this movie that look like a Vermeer painting. And he was known for these lifelike paintings of people. And I, at times, were like these characters just kind of like standing there looking at each other, gazing at each other. I feel like I'm looking at a Vermeer painting, but like a moving Vermeer painting at times. So I was just mesmerized by watching this movie. The two leads we've already talked about are just outstanding. Yeah. And actually, this film is really a three-hander. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of thoughts on the Sophie character, but the two main women, who's, again, I'm afraid to even say their names because I don't want to butcher it, but they're two of the best performances I may have ever seen. I think they're incredible. Adele Haenel, you already talked about. I think we should mention this, that how she has left the acting industry, which I think is a shame, but I fully understand and support the reasons for her doing this. But I think it's interesting that, we can talk more about that. But I guess there's just one thing. I guess I'm not calling it a gripe, but it's actually a result of how incredible the two leads are. And this is going to sound kind of weird. But the movie did feel a little stagey. And it's not, and it's not in a bad way. I was constantly snapped
You're very
back.
aware of the blocking.
I was constantly snapped back into my world of watching this as a gazer, sensing the acting. The acting is very forward facing. The facade.
Offer something on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's exactly what they're talking about with Orpheus and Eurydice. When you're forced to turn back and look. I think this whole movie's about that.
There's a lot in there. Yeah.
The
facade of this whole thing, as if I could see the actors putting on their characters, their costumes, and pretending to be these people. And I'm not saying that these are bad performances at all. They are absolutely amazing. I think they're some of the best I've ever seen. But there's something about the story, the characters felt like theater to me, like where I sensed the real actors underneath the performances. So this is maybe a minor quarrel, maybe it's intended. I don't know. But this is a 5-star movie, possibly an absolute masterpiece. That's all I got.
All right, Sam.
All right.
I would definitely agree with that. And I think for me, the main thing that I like about this film, the main reason why I like any movie that I love is because for me, I felt like these characters were real. Like the performances were so good. The situation felt real. The production design felt real. The authenticity. I mean, I knew I was going to like this film. Oddly enough, I kind of tend to zero in on like seemingly random scenes. But when she was like riding in on the boat, on the like rowboat at the beginning, they just felt like they got it just felt like I was in that time. You know what I mean? And so I know what you mean about the like that feeling of like occasional staginess, Nathan. I didn't get that, but I do. I see how that there are like a lot of long, like very like, you know, withheld pauses in this film. And so I can see that kind of feeling creeping in. But for me, the character seems so real that I was more focused on, I just felt the situation unfold and like, what's going to happen? Like, how is this relationship going to progress? Will it fall apart? Like, obviously it's got to end. The mother's coming back. She's going to leave. She's getting married. This is great. So I just got drawn into it. And I think that's a testament to like the incredible like actors, the filmmaker, just the whole production. And it's funny. It's a film that I would not necessarily have been drawn to or like aware of if not for the podcast. And like, I'm glad I watched it because the genre itself, like it normally wouldn't be something I'm immediately drawn to, but like, I just found this movie very engrossing. I solidly liked it a lot. I would give it 4 stars.
Nice. You gentlemen are arbiters of good taste. Thank you for coming to the podcast tonight. Yes.
I changed my mind. 1 star. I want a movie about Walmart. This is boring. These women talking on a beach. Boring. No,
they're not even talking in English.
I'm like, so I don't know what's you guys like it.
Everything else I said was true.
I didn't have my subtitles on, so I don't know what they were saying. I watched the dubbed version.
Weirdly, Robert Pattinson was in the dubbed version. Yeah, no, for me, this is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. I love this movie. I love all of Celine Sciamma's movie. This was the first one I saw from her, and then I went back and did her whole filmography, and it's absolutely worth it. I think everything about this movie is so layered and delicate and intentional, and every relationship in this movie just serves to give the A story, the romance, I think more dimension. I think the B plot with the houseworker and the abortion is really well done and really beautiful. But I also think that level of friendship and them getting to explore each other in the context of how they treat another person just adds more dimension into their relationship too. I think that's great. It's absolutely, I think, about observation and really seeing someone for who they are and seeing yourself from their perspective for the first time and allowing yourself to live in your truth and be the kind of person that you want them to see and that you want them to look for. The last 15 minutes of this movie are seared into my brain. I think it's a perfect ending. There's a few endings, and it's beautiful. To the blocking, one thing about this movie, the camera doesn't move a lot. There's a lot of shots that are still, and then there's movement within that do feel very painterly. What's up, Sam?
No, I was going to say I totally agree. I was just saying I think what Nathan was saying about the staginess, I think that's where you get that feeling from, just that in my opinion. But yeah.
It's also in the performance as well, because there's a couple times, I don't want to interrupt, but where I'm watching the two actresses and I feel like they almost are this close to breaking character. Like they're like they want to like crack up, like they're having so much fun in these roles. I felt like, and had such great chemistry that I felt like when they call cut, they're like, like they just want to like.
Chemistry is off the charts. For me, my favorite scenes in this movie happen in the kitchen, and you know, you can dig into what that means from a feminine perspective too, but all of that still camera work just facing the table. And I love when the mother goes away and the maid is there stitching and the two of them are like, oh, we get to play house now. And one's in the fire cooking, the other one's pouring wine. It's just really lovely to see. And then of course the bonfire is transcendental. I don't know how else to describe that. I'm obsessed with it. But yeah, we'll talk about it, but 5 out of 5. Love it.
Yeah. I also forgot to mention that I meant to say in my review, but the sound mixing is incredible. Like I can hear the crackling of every single like ember of wood in the fireplaces and in all the scenes with fireplaces, or like when they're talking so close and there's so much tension, like someone will like swallow or you'll like hear like a throat noise. Like the audio is amped in this film. It's crisp. Like,
I have a confession. Like I can watch someone paint all day, and it's not just about painting. It's the sound of those tools that they use. The metal on a canvas, that scraping sound, it is like an ASMR experience for me. Cool. And I seriously I was getting like goosebumps as they're like the technique of creating in the hand movement. I don't know if these were the actual actresses' hands doing this. If they are, I mean, it was unbelievable. Like seeing the meticulous, movement, hand movements of painting these things. I could have watched 2 hours of somebody just painting a portrait, and the sound of that doing it. But instead,
you got armpit sex.
You got armpit sex. That's right. I was like, that was very jarring. There's a couple interesting smash cuts in this movie that say something. Yeah, but yeah. Wow, couple things here. I don't know who wants to continue this.
I was just going to sort of start from the top a little bit. So, she comes in and we get introduced to the mom really quickly, who we haven't talked about much, but.
Do you know who that is? Valerie Golino?
Yes, she's amazing.
Sam, Valerie Golino, you know who, I didn't realize who this was at first. She's been in so much stuff like Big Top Pee-wee, Rain Man. I didn't realize who I was watching at first. Hot Shots.
Yeah. She's in Hot Shots.
Yeah. She's a rock star. I think I'm supposed to not.
I do also.
I think I'm supposed to not like her character very much, but I love her character. I totally get where she's coming from in the sense of freedom that she wants for her daughter that can only be afforded through these societal constructions.
Yep.
Which that's the thing. She's like a real, like you were saying, be like a real like these all feel like real people. Like if this was a poorly directed or acted movie, she'd be like the one note villain mother who's like, you will marry the blah, 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 blah. And she's like a 3-dimensional person who like has desires, and then you hear her plan about wanting to go to Milan, and it actually sounds kind of good, like, I
know, and she like lights up when she's speaking Italian. It's so cute. And she has those great little hair pieces, adorable. I loved her. So she hatches a plan to trick. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're talking about the mom. Go ahead.
And then together they hatch a plan to trick Héloïse's character into being painted by saying she has a promenade companion, right? We're just going to go on walks together. It's so gay, you guys. But we're just going to go on walks together. And and she's just observing her, and Héloïse's character allowing herself to be observed is already such a break, because we learned that the former painter, she wasn't allowed to do that. And I think that act of letting someone in, the walls are coming down a little bit and the romance starts to spice up.
Absolutely. And like, speaking of the walls, her entrance as a character where she's like shrouded in the like
running out,
it's like the most dramatic, like, this is the character, and
running out toward the cliff.
Yes.
There's an unbelievable, and I made a note of this. There's a point, and this is, like I said, this is a movie about the power of glances and gazes, and there's they're standing out on this cliff. This is one of the most striking shots I think I've ever seen in cinema, where Marianne and Héloïse they're looking out at the ocean over the cliff, and it's like the side profile of them. And but Héloïse is kind of like eclipsed by Marianne as they're looking out. And but as Marianne turns to look at her, Héloïse's face is revealed, is looking back at her in this darting stare. And this exchange goes on for a few moments. It's either foreshadowing or inferring that these two characters are going to share this intimacy very soon. Because if in this shot, they're literally sharing like one body almost.
Yeah, I know exactly what shot you're talking about. It's gorgeous.
And it seems like such a simple shooting technique, but it's so effective. And I can't think of another film I've seen that done like this. And I'm just, I actually rewound it and watched it again because I was like, wow. And the location for this is like, it almost looks like something from a big budget science fiction movie. Like I thought this would be like a Marvel movie or something from the Star Wars universe or something, this location. It's
the colors just really sing to me. They're so beautiful. I can't get enough of it.
I wonder where exactly they shot it. I missed that. I'm sure that's in the Wikipedia. I'll check that, but like it must have been somewhere. Like, I love the coastal, like,
I hope
wouldn't be surprised if it was
soon
Brittany.
on a new Walks the World, Sam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely epic landscape for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was filmed in Brittany.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Get on that, Sam.
Yeah. Field trip.
Already on it. Flight booked.
Let's go. But yeah, their romance starts to develop. They're going on these walks together. And of course, she's painting her in secret. She finishes a painting that we get to see. And when you see the painting reveal, the first one, what did you two think? Were you like, oh yeah, she nailed that painting? Or were you like,
No,
I was like, it's not quite her.
Like, it's like, it didn't look quite like her. And I was thinking to myself, is this like the greatest rendition of Héloïse? I'm like, no.
Yeah,
but okay.
I didn't think it was bad, but it was formal. Like it was like a her, but with a blank stare, kind of.
Yeah, the rules and conventions.
There was no soul to it.
Yeah.
And I love that Héloïse was so honest about it and so angry. Like, I let you in. I let you spend so much time on the beach watching me. And this is what you come back with?
But she says, like, is this how you see me? Also, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
That was intense.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to the marriage, right? This is how I'm not the only one that has to have this in mind.
But it's more to that. Like, it says, is this how you see me? And Marianne says, it's not only me. There are rules, conventions, ideas. I wrote this down here. You mean there is no life, no presence. Your presence is made up of fleeting moments that may lack truth. So it was like, yeah.
Oh. And at that point, I am deceased on the floor. And then
this movie does need to win. They need to create a new like Oscar category for like best tension ever, like best
the melodrama
ever.
is just so rich in this film. Just like,
but the two like already are kind of in cahoots, and they, without talking, are able to prolong this process and get the house to themselves, which is when this becomes the three-hander you talked about, Nathan.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I also feel it's a three-hander, because, we haven't even gotten into this whole other piece of this, which is the story that it's kind of being compared to the
Orpheus.
Orpheus
and Eurydice.
But also this is also a classic, a comparison example of three characters that are representing the human psyche, the id, the ego, and the superego.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got Héloïse, clearly the id. The id represents the primal desires, instinctive drives. Héloïse embodies this aspect through emotions and desires and the passion. And you got Marianne, who's the ego. The ego is mediates between the id and the superego. And in reality, Marianne is the artist. She's observing and processing the emotions and desires and feels for Héloïse, and she's creating that balance. And, she's tasked with painting Héloïse, and she's grappling with the professional obligations of balancing emotions, and it's mirroring the ego's role in between desires and the moral constraints. And we haven't talked about Sophie yet, but Sophie is the superego. So, the superego represents, societal norms and ideals. She's the maid, and the maid is, supporting the societal structures and moral standards. This is the classic, we've pegged them perfectly, is in this. So that's
interesting because I was looking at their Trinity. That's a great read. And I love that. But I was thinking of this Trinity in mythology and in classical literature too. Like we have the Fates and we have the three witches and we have like this trio of three that's just this classical, like this story is going to get told through them and how it's going to end already, right?
This movie's deep, I think.
You're there. I know.
Well, yeah. So I didn't know much about, I'm going to sound naive. I didn't know anything really about Orpheus and Eurydice. Eurydice? I actually had to do a little bit more research on this afterwards. So I was a novice. But after I paused the movie and I actually had to go on the internet and read about this, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, okay, everything here is about this story pretty much. Everything is about this character turning around and her lover disappears. This is happening this entire film. But what surprised me, and I don't want to jump too far ahead if we want to talk more about things, but I thought this movie was going to end in a much bigger tragedy also. In the way it does.
Me too. I was worried about that. I was like, oh, this is building to, and I was glad that she still is alive.
Well, especially with what we've learned about the sister who falls off the cliff. I thought this was going to be some sort of self-fulfilling prophecy that this Héloïse is going to end up at the bottom of this cliff somehow. Especially with she was going to feel trapped by what her future was going to be. They were never going to be the future was never going to be what they wanted it to be, and she was going to be faced with something or commit suicide or something. I had no idea where this was going to go, but I thought we were going to a much more darker ending. It seems like, for the most part, it could have been a lot worse. I
feel like the ending's pretty dark, but it's not death. That's true. Yeah, I think the ending to me is, well, we'll talk about the ending.
We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. But in the meantime, we meet Sophie, and Sophie's very matter of fact. Like you said, she knows the ins and outs of this island, and she helps lead the women a little bit out of their shell while mom's away, and the cat's away, the mice will play. I love her character. I think she's really funny.
I liked her a lot. Yeah,
she is.
Yeah.
What did you think of? I kept trying to figure out if there was some meaning behind the dress colors. I know this might be getting really super deep, but typically Héloïse is in a green dress and Marianne's in a red dress. And I don't know if you guys, this might be getting way too geeky, but I noticed that, and I was like, green nature, maybe purity, maybe, I don't know. Red is usually more passion and fire, but I felt like it would be the opposite. So I was a little intrigued if I was reading it in a weird way. I was trying to figure that out.
Is Sophie in a yellowish or a beige-ish?
Oh.
I think she is, because then they're in primary colors until they come together to paint. And she's in green.
We have red, green.
Well,
green is
the dress she's painted in, but Héloïse is normally in blue, yeah?
By the way, it's really interesting. That green dress does not want to be painted. Everybody that's in that, like their head is either, you just notice like either the painting like it's cut off, or when at one time somebody's looking in the mirror and their head is literally cut off in the shot as well.
Yeah.
So it was interesting how that we're always kind of avoiding like seeing somebody for a while in that green dress in full frame. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do a face reveal with Héloïse too, when it's her sitting for the first time. I love the costuming in this. I think it's gorgeous. It's so textural. Everything in this movie just feels like you could just pick it up and touch it and feel it. It's great. How do you guys like the abortion B plot? I don't know how else to say that.
I thought it was, it's funny. Think about, there's today, if somebody wants to go and think about getting an abortion, I feel like there's counseling. Like, do you really not want this baby? Are you sure? Have you considered like putting up for adoption? And I feel like this is like the 1770 equivalent of that, because she's put down right next to a baby. And I feel like, are you sure about this? Because there's a baby right here. I thought that was so messed up.
That was so messed up. Yeah. It did feel very like, very matter of fact, this is life. We're poor. Yeah. You can't afford this kind of stuff. Like, where am I supposed to put this kid?
But it's like, this is, as all I was thinking of right now is like, it's felt a little bit like that like clinic you walk into, like, well, baby right here. You sure? Baby.
Yeah. I appreciated that she just immediately had the support of everyone around her, and they tried I thought making her run back and forth was really funny. Making her run back and forth on the beach, like there was some great levity in this movie, and it happens around this, which was just so smart. The scene where they're crouched in the grass and they all pop up like meerkats at the same time is just beautiful to look at, but then you realize what they're doing.
Trying to scare a baby out of her.
Scare a baby. And then of course it's it is deeper than that, and it's about women helping other women and forming bonds outside of society, because they weren't allowed to be their true selves, and they weren't allowed to lead the kind of lives they wanted to live. So it relied on this radical collective care that still exists today that we often need. And I think the bonfire scene is the perfect example of that, and just all those voices crescendoing out of the dark is so
that was incredible.
Stunning. So stunning. And then of course you get that moment where the two of them, I think, realize that they love each other. That look across the fire is just, that's it, man. I'm done.
And she
Stick
smiles
a fork in
again
me.
in that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, so like I said, I was joking before about this movie being about 2 hours of edging. The best release this movie, I think, had was the moment that Héloïse actually smiles. Because I almost didn't care about the romance, just smile.
She took her time being funny. So
yeah. And the moment she does and cracks a smile, is like, oh, thank God. It's just like
it's gonna go somewhere.
Yeah. So it felt like I could relax.
Yeah.
And that happened. I think that happened almost over an hour into this movie. And I was like, I felt like I could finally just like settle into my seat and like have a good time with this movie after that. But yeah, it really took off after that for me. I really had a great time. There's a few other things here. The visions that start to come up in this after, because the whole story is introduced, and Marianne starts having these visions of Héloïse in this white flowy dress. And of course, mirroring the story that they read, gave me chills. Like, really was haunting.
Yeah.
I really, it was effective.
Can we talk a little bit about the story? Because there's a few emotional and plot developments that happen when it's a trio. And one is that Héloïse starts asking Marianne to paint, to draw them in books, to draw out the scene, to sort of process what the three of them went through together. That is sort of a catalyst where she starts to find joy and take part of the process and take ownership of her image. And the other one is this story where they're sort of developing the narrative for themselves through the lens of Orpheus and Eurydice. And specifically that ending sequence that Héloïse is reading aloud to the table, because they didn't have TV. I don't know if you knew that. So they had to read the Greeks. And the end is where, of course, Eurydice is in the underworld and he's trying to get her back, but he's made a deal. And they say, if you turn back and look for Eurydice, then she'll be trapped here forever. And he can't resist. And he looks back for her and she's trapped and he moves on. And the three of them offer their own interpretation in the moment of what that could mean. And they're defining the ending of this movie for us before it happens, like the fates, right? Like the three witches. And they're saying, did he make the poet's choice? Is he choosing
the lover's
the memory,
choice versus the poet's choice?
Choosing to remember her. And Héloïse says maybe she made a choice. Maybe she said, look at me, which is the choice that she's been making this whole movie. So what's your read on it? I
remember Sophie was like appalled. Like, why would they do that? Like, that was so stupid. All you have to do is not turn around and everything would have been fine.
Sophie's like, these damn men.
So pragmatic. Like, why would you do this?
I remember finding that story very emotional. Like when I first heard it in 5th grade, I was like, oh, I looked back and like, that was like, to my mind then, that was such an intensely epic story. I was like, oh my God, the tragedy.
Yeah. I remember that was my main takeaway. I remember just Sophie being so like angry at how that turned out. And like, why were you such an idiot? All you had to do was just not turn around and keep going. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how it relates to the ending though.
So the very end where they're hearing music and it's we assume Héloïse's first time at the Symphony and they're playing the Vivaldi that Marianne played for her together, the Four Seasons. And she's looking like she's behind. They almost switch places. Like now she's Eurydice and she's just wondering if she'll turn back and look at her.
From across the concert hall?
Across the balcony.
Because
we're left thinking about that final look, that final moment, and they're sort of chasing each other through history.
Yeah.
And she's dropping all these clues, the 28, the book, like,
But when they're at the play, like she doesn't turn and see her there. Like
she doesn't turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfulfilled. Right.
I kind of like that.
I do too.
That's interesting. I have so many thoughts in the end of this, but I didn't really think about it that way. But that's great. I guess I'll share a couple thoughts on the end. I mean, first of all, I'll mention about the end because I love the ending of this movie, but I was also sort of conflicted for a little bit. I saw this about 4 days ago. So I guess this is years later after the events of this like 9 or 10 days that they had together at, and Marianne goes to this art gallery where there's some showing or so. And we obviously we see her and there's a portrait of her with a child as well. And it looks like the child's maybe 5 or 6 years old or so. So some time's gone by and she has the finger placed on inside of page 28, which is amazing. I love that moment because what we haven't said is that when early in the movie, she asked Marianne to paint the little self-portrait of herself inside a book on page 28. And she drew a self-portrait. So obviously her love is never faded. And I'm actually trying to imagine the conversation between Héloïse and the painter. which is kind of funny. Just, right, little 28 right here. Or maybe she comes around like, hey, just give me that paintbrush. And, all right, there you go.
I've seen some sort of cute interpretations where the 8 kind of looks like an infinity symbol, right? So it'd be like 2 of us forever. It's kind of cute. I don't know if that was intentional, but.
So now at the concert, Marianne sees Héloïse from across the concert hall, and she never sees Marianne. And the music begins. It gets super loud. We got Vivaldi's Four Seasons being played. It's, by the way, it's the same music that Marianne plays in the harpsichord earlier in the film. Mm-hmm. And you can see that, that rush of emotions and memories all hitting Héloïse at the same time. It's just an incredible feat of acting also.
Yes.
What you see that. But here's the thing. For a while, I was like, I love this, but it also kind of felt like a double ending. And I was wondering, did I need this moment? Because for a while, I felt like I got everything I needed out of the story of these two when I saw that page 28. It told me everything about what I needed from this relationship. And that was like the aha moment. Héloïse's love never faded, and Marianne got to see, because it's also set up. She says it like twice. I got to see Héloïse one more time. I got to see her one more time. And I thought it would have been actually kind of cool if that seeing her meant like in that portrait. And that would have been like, oh, I got to see her there. That's her seeing her. And that's what I thought where the movie was trying to go. But so if the movie ended right there, I would have thought this was the greatest ending ever. Honestly. Now, I think there's an argument to be made that final scene at the concert hall wasn't needed, and it was superfluous. But I've been going back and forth. But I am now convinced that the concert hall scene actually adds something really great to it, because what the gallery scene is doing, it is allowing Marianne to see Héloïse. Mm-hmm. What the concert hall scene is doing is allowing Héloïse to see Marianne through the music.
Yes.
Because that was their connection.
It's the memory
earlier.
of her.
It's the memory. So we're now seeing everything rushing through Héloïse in that moment. We're now seeing her see Marianne. And we wouldn't have gotten that otherwise. Because I was still like, it feels like it felt like we get it, the ending, now we're getting the ending again. But it is showing us another perspective of that love.
And I think it comes back to the myth, the Orpheus myth, and just seeing Héloïse from Marianne's perspective, raw and unvarnished, and not with a purpose, just seeing her as she remembers. And then, then it puts another layer on Marianne's painting in the previous scene, because you mentioned we see the painting of Héloïse, but Marianne has a piece in that art show, which is why she's there. And it's the moment of the turn from the Orpheus and Eurydice myth. And a collector comes up and says it's almost as if they're saying goodbye to each other in this moment. And I think you have that. Yeah, it's a masterful piece of acting.
Yeah. All right. I got nothing else.
Sam, what do you think of the ending?
I liked it. I mean, but again, this whole movie, like, I felt emotionally drawn in. And so whether the ending was necessary or not, I was just happy to see another moment and see her cry. And I thought, I was convinced that she was going to turn and see her, and she didn't. And that surprised me. And that just kind of felt like, added a bit of like melancholy to it. That ambiguity and like a little bit of tragedy, but I liked the theater ending. Like I was glad it was there because I was emotionally involved.
Yeah. I've never been so much at the edge of my seat watching somebody just listen to music. Like at that final scene, like is she just gonna like looked over across the concert hall or what? I was like, It was incredible. Yeah.
And so I wanted to pull up this quote from Celine Sciamma about the ending. She said, "Yes, and also because I wanted to question what a happy ending is. We have the romantic comedy philosophy, a frozen image of two people being together, and we also have the tragic ending. And I wanted neither. Why do we believe that eternal possession of somebody means a happy ending? Love educates us about art. Art consoles us from lost love. Our great loves are a condition of our future love. This film is the memory of a love story. It's sad, but it's full of hope." Amazing.
Yeah.
She's smart.
I love that truly was amazing. I just love the added. She's smart.
She's smart.
That was a very like Family Guy, like this speech
Wicked
is like,
smart.
that was wicked great, Lois.
Wicked. Oh.
Oh, but amazing. Yeah.
All right. Are we ready for a little break?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for checking out our podcast and a review of Portrait of a Lady on Fire. If you agree or disagree with our views, don't keep it to yourselves. We would love to know your thoughts. Sharing your feedback is essential to building a community around all of our love of movies. You can do so by sending an email to backtotheframerate@gmail.com or by finding us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, or YouTube. We would also love it if you could please take just a moment and leave us a solid rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to our show. We thank you all in advance. All right. It is time for us to decide if we are going to save or purge.
Yeah, this is a real nail biter.
Gee, I wonder what's going to happen here.
Yeah, this movie is great. I gave it 5 stars. I don't think there's ever been a movie that I so instantly went on Criterion and looked up like where can I get the Criterion Blu-ray of this? Because I may do that right away because I do want to see what special features are on this. This movie was incredible. And it's been on my list of movies to watch for years and years. And I'm so glad that we decided to watch it this week. So yeah, this is a save, a no-brainer.
Nice.
Save.
Control S.
Just kidding. Purge it. No, I save it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an obvious save.
I remembered the sound effect this week.
Nice.
Yeah. Don't have to add it in post. All right. Let's do our movie pairings, which
we're keeping them a surprise.
I don't have my little sound effect, Sam. I don't have my sound effect, but you know what I do have?
What is the sound effect?
Well, I don't have my little
the bumper
for it, but you know what I do have because I couldn't find. I lost the file for it. I have this.
We got twins.
Nathan, so for listeners, we're keeping our double feature pairings a surprise from each other. And Nathan, you're going first, I'm going last. I have a genuine concern that you and I have the same pairing. So I'm dying to know what yours is.
Does your
while you're worried about that, since double feature pairing doesn't have a song, might I suggest double feature pairing, double feature pairing?
Now I'm really concerned too. Give me the slightest hint of yours. The slightest hint.
Oh, there's nothing subtle about the movie I'm going to do. Go ahead, just do it. If it's that one, I'll pick a different one.
Okay, so.
Let me guess. Newsroom with Jeff Daniels, right?
It's Rambo 3. All right?
America is the greatest. No.
My movie pairing this week, I think, is very appropriate because watching these two films together will incite another form of temptation, where Portrait of a Lady on Fire is what I equate to a 2-hour lap dance. You can look, but don't touch. But boy, does it get your motor running. The 2000 Leslie Hellstrom film Chocolat.
Oh boy.
equally titillates a different set of senses.
Yeah. Okay, we don't have the same movie, but that's a good choice.
Of the exquisite looking confections that are crafted by the film's lead, Juliette Binoche, who's always incredible.
I love her.
You've also got Dame Judi Dench, Alfred Molina, Johnny Depp, and Carrie-Anne Moss. You know, what an incredible run for Carrie-Anne Moss back around this time. She did The Matrix, Memento, and this film within like a year.
Did you mention Molina too? Sorry if I
Alfred Molina.
It.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I'm about to mention that. So
can we start like a Molina fan club? I
know, he's awesome.
So
Binoche's character moves into a small French village, and all she wants to do is bring the most decadent chocolate confections imaginable to the locals. But there's some resistance from the Alfred Molina character, who is steeped in tradition and his moral high ground. But he's also, a very complicated character. And I don't want to spoil the ending, but there's just a great scene with Alfred Molina at the end of this movie that I can't talk about if you haven't seen it, but he is so good in this.
Just watch Chocolat. It's great.
I know. I think this is a great double feature because, well, first of all, you've got the French setting, but the protagonists are also both strong female leads. Both films explore social norms, personal freedoms, empowerment, self-discovery. But the films have very different tones. Chocolat's
a
much more
a little lighter.
It's much more whimsical.
Yeah. Which would you watch?
I watched Portrait first, then Chocolat to end it.
A little palate cleanser.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I still think it's a great pairing because by the end of the night, you're gonna feel some tantalizing emotions in some form or another. So yeah. Because, sex and chocolate,
Yeah. They go together like sex and chocolate. Yeah.
All right.
It's Sam.
So this is a very, very thinly drawn connection, but both movies
Rambo
are about.
3.
Yes, that was the thing. Dedicated to the valiant. No, I'm not. Never mind. But the movie action. Wow. No, I'm like, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's like you derailed my pre-programmed AI speech, B. Thanks a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
The worst.
By the way, I would Chocolat's on Amazon, is on Prime Video. I should have mentioned. But go ahead. Yeah.
So the film I would pick is it's like Forbidden Love, completely different, but the one thing they have in common are both incredibly well acted films that feel real to me. This movie is a film by Adrian Lyne called Unfaithful. Very intense with Richard Gere and Diane Lane, and totally different story of like forbidden passion, even though the themes of these two films are entirely different.
Though.
It is sexy and intense and like just rife with tension. So watch these movies both together in a single night to literally just like be wrung out, and then you'll fall asleep.
When we did American Gigolo, we wanted to pick like underrated Richard Gere movies so listeners can go back. But I don't think this is underrated.
Movie's incredible.
Great.
It came up during that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfaithful is available on Hulu and Showtime.
You should watch it.
Yep.
One sound effect we definitely need for the show, Nathan, and maybe I can get it, is John Malkovich in The Line of Fire when he's going, whoo, whoo, when he's watching the president, because I imitate that all the time, and I should
remind me
get the real soundbite. Yeah.
Remind me. All right.
All right. Me next. So I went with another queer love story, this one is I guess more of an overt adaptation. My Own Private Idaho, 1991, Gus Van Sant. I
still have not seen that movie. I gotta see that film.
This is another one that I'm like, this might be a masterpiece. I think it's wonderfully done. Henry IV. It's a take on that, which Nathan, I know we want to do a Shakespeare one of these days. We could always throw that in there. But this is a great movie. I don't want to give too much away, but you should watch it for the cast alone. Keanu Reeves and of course River Phoenix are in this. They play the two leads. You should check it out. It's on VOD and it's not much for a few bucks. It's a great, albeit is a tough double pairing, but you can do it. It's worth it. You can do it.
You can do it.
You can do it.
You can do it.
Yeah.
All right. These are some great recommendations. Awesome. All right. There we have it. All right.
It's just some sad boys and some sad girls.
Back to the frame rate.
Well, we're cooking tonight. All
Woo!
right. Feel like we've been talking for a long time, but yeah, we've only an hour in. How about this? I want to float something by you guys because I watched something. I want to introduce maybe segment that we could do periodically if we have time for it. But I would like to propose something maybe called a weekly highlight, where we mention one thing that we either watched or did this past week. And this could be completely optional, but I'd like to mention one thing that I watched this week. I watched Hitman, the new Richard Linklater movie.
I just watched that like right before this podcast.
Okay. Well, you can chime in too. So I watched this, and I got to say, I thought this movie was a lot of fun. I think it's a good appetizer for the even bigger Glenn Powell vehicle, Twisters, coming out in July. Hitman, yeah, like I said, is the latest from Richard Linklater, and I knew that going into it. I watched this whole movie, and then when it was done and the credits came up and I saw Linklater's name as a director, I was like, holy shit, that's right, he directed this. Because it's weird watching Hitman, because it completely left my consciousness that he was behind this movie, because I thought this had a completely different aesthetic. But Richard Linklater is doing a lot of different types of movies these days, and it shouldn't surprise me, because he really is doing a lot to flex himself as a director and do different kind of movies. But this was like something I feel like he's never done before. This is a very popcorn movie. Mm-hmm. But I liked it a lot. I was really surprised.
I've got to see it because I didn't even know that he directed that, and I'm a big Richard Linklater fan. Like, I love a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
And he co-wrote this with Glenn Powell, and so it has a very different feel to this. Glenn Powell, he stars as this kind of like this nebbish college professor, and he moonlights with the New Orleans Police Department, helping them with their sting operations.
Which is a crazy premise that you have to buy into.
It's the most ridiculous scenario ever.
So it asks you, Sam, to buy in, and this is not a spoiler, it asks you in the first 5 minutes of the movie to accept that a college professor would be working part-time, like just on retainer for the local police department, setting up wiretap traps and video footage. Yes.
Yeah. It's a stretch.
That's a stretch.
But the funny thing is this is part of the whole thing. He finds himself as the face of the operation, where he is the one that's going undercover as the fake hitman, to solicit would-be
to entrap these potential.
The first half of this movie I thought had some legitimately funny moments with Glenn Powell, and I think he does a good job in it, especially where he has to keep on creating these many different personas to meet up with these customers. But this film, I kind of got into a conventional romantic comedy, somewhat actiony final act.
Bring back the rom-com.
But it's still pretty good, I thought. So I do recommend it, because even when it could have gone to some very down a conventional path, it did surprise me. Because this is a Linklater movie. Yeah. This isn't just like typical schlock. This does do some smart things.
I thought it was really good. I think, Glenn Powell and some of these other up and coming movie stars are on a trajectory with their careers that's really a breath of fresh air, separate from franchises. And so watching them do these sort of genre vehicles is fun. And I like what Glenn Powell's doing here. I thought this was very Linklater, actually. I'm surprised. I thought this was...
I did not
had
get that
his
vibe.
Fingerprints all over it. But especially the soundtrack's a banger. That was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's totally a popcorn movie, like you said.
Yeah.
There's room in the ecosystem for that.
Yeah.
I got to check it out.
Yeah. Sam, I think you would like it a lot.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam, you saw something in the theater.
I was going to say I did see Bad Boys Ride or Die, which I'd like to point out. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yes.
Did solidly well this weekend. 56.
The box office is back.
The box office is back. Exactly. Leave it to Will and Marima. No, but so I I solidly enjoyed it. I thought the chemistry between them was great. Like, it was a lot of fun. Obviously all those films are formulaic. It followed the formula quite to a T, where I thought it did feel a little tired in parts, but there was a lot of fun action and spectacle and humor, and Martin Lawrence was hilarious and Will Smith was good. And like, I enjoyed it. And I will say, I just wanted to quote a reviewer, a guy named Bilge Abiri that writes for the New York Vulture movie review. I do agree with this. I liked Bad Boys Ride or Die a lot. I thought it was, they had sort of a smaller budget, even though it was still $90 million, but the two directors did some really incredible, inventive action scenes. But just to quote this review that I totally agree with, nothing here can hold a candle to Bad Boys 2's highway chase involving a car carrying trailer dumping all its cars onto the road, or Bad Boys 2 chase involving a morgue van dumping all its carcasses on the road, or Bad Boys 2's chase involving a Cuban drug shanty town where all the houses kept blowing up as Mike and Marcus plowed through them. You might see where this is going. Basically, nothing here can match anything in Bad Boys 2, which was a mess, certainly, but a glorious mess filled with some of the most ludicrously over-the-top action scenes of all time. And I agree, because I love Bad Boys 2, because it's just nuts. It's totally insane. So this was fun. I enjoyed it. It was good to see the characters. You could just feel a little bit of franchise fatigue, a little formulaic, but some really good action, and the positive outweighed the negative. So I would give it I give it 3.5. Yeah.
And in just one weekend, it's already made back its budget.
Yeah. Amazing. I was just so glad that to see a movie make money this friggin' summer, break the curse, except Planet of the Apes did well. But
get ready for Bad Boys 5 in 2 years.
Yeah. I'll happily go. I think, you know what it is? I will lastly say, because I love action movies, I feel that some of the earlier Bad Boys were like cutting edge action sequences. This movie was good, some inventive action, but not like cutting edge. If they hear this podcast for Bad Boys 5, guys, you have to go all out and like blow up an oil tanker or something, like make it huge.
Yes. Go Fast and Furious. Just keep getting bigger.
Exactly.
Bigger and bigger.
Bigger.
That's awesome. I watched a good movie this week. I watched Last Stop in Yuma County. Has anyone heard of this?
Nuts.
Yeah, I
have not actually.
I heard it's really good.
It's
but I know
pretty
where Yuma County
good.
is.
Yeah.
Hey.
It's pretty good.
It's an awful title, but yes.
Well, it just kept making me think of 3:10 to Yuma.
Of course.
But newcomer Francis Galuppi, I'm not sure. It was pretty good. It totally earns all the reviews that say it's reminiscent of some early Coen Brothers stuff, but that's not bad. Those are great movies. I'm happy to watch that. It's got great pacing. It's got a good story. I'm not totally sold on the ending of it, but it's a really fun, easy watch. I caught it on Amazon. I think it was like $5, and I think that was exactly right. Perfect for that night.
Nice.
Oh, it's already on VOD?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yep. So it's pretty good. I like that. That was a good one.
I'm looking forward to that. Good.
Yeah. It's just nice to see new stories, new people. And there's a good mix of, there's a lot of faces in that movie that you've seen before, but there's going to be a lot of faces that you haven't too.
Great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
New talent.
Let's check it out.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Woo! I think that's it for tonight.
Rock and
Next week, we are watching Lilies from 1996, a movie that I know nothing about. And we are going to have a guest on joining us. We'll save that just until that actually happens, just to make sure that if it's legit. So we'll see. But so tune in next week when we watch and review Lilies from 1996. I don't even know where it's streaming. We have to figure that out. Oh, I think it's on Criterion. It just hit Criterion.
It is.
Right. Yes.
It looks awesome. John Grayson, the director.
And that will be the third and final movie in our June Pride series. And
awesome.
So, all right.
Cool.
So thank you for dialing into, did I do my, I don't know if I did do my housekeeping. That's right.
Back to the frame rate for the Western Media Podcast.
All right. Back to the frame rate. It's part of the Western Media Podcast Network. We wish to thank Brian Ellsworth for our show opening. On behalf of all of us, we bid you farewell from our fallout shelter. Your presence in our underground sanctuary is truly appreciated. We are truly sorry you cannot join us, but we want to express our gratitude for your company. If you are finding solace in our discussions, we kindly ask that you please subscribe and leave a rating and review. You can find more episodes of this podcast on backtotheframerate.com and our handle on our... Thanks, Sam. and our socials, back frame rate. Your support is the beacon of light that brightens our confined space. Head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whichever portal connects you to our broadcast and share your thoughts. Until we emerge from the fallout, stay with us, keep hope alive, and keep those reviews coming. Back to the frame rate, signing off.
I want you to know it's over.
Well.
Well.
Bye.
Bye.